Here we're going to take a look at community in a network society. So what's a community? Historically, we think of communities as people sharing a geographically bounded space. However, today we often think of a wider range of things that make up a community. It could be people who share characteristics beyond geographic location. It could be interests, professional credentials, challenges or impactions, shared pleasures or joys. We also have within our communities shared understandings. We usually can speak the same language. We understand each other's norms and presentations of self. There's a lot of different things that go into being part of a community. When we talk about the study of community, generally people bring up Toynes, who was the first to study the fundamentals. Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft are now considered essential concepts in the study of community. Gemeinschaft is literally the German word for community and refers to cohesive social bonds. Usually they come from pre-existing sources such as family. Gemeinschaft affiliations are really the end in and of themselves, and they have three key characteristics. Bonds are strong and meaningful, such as family ties. Second, socialization is occurring mostly within this primary group, as well as key social activities. And third, people know, trust, and support each other. Gesellschaft translates loosely to society or association. This is people who are generally what we would call self-serving units that come together for achieving a larger goal. A primary example of this would be members of a nation state. In this view, people are loosely connected and have direct benefits. Bonds are weak. Obviously, most communities don't fit neatly into Gemeinschaft or Gesellschaft categories. These are ideal types used as aids in analysis. Wellman introduces the term the community question to bring up the debate about how community has changed over time, and even the meaning of community has changed over time, and the role that technology has played in these changes. He sees this as a critical issue to discuss given how much our lives have changed because of it. Wellman distinguishes between three theoretical viewpoints: community lost, community saved, and community liberated. The community loss perspective focuses on the ways that industrialization and post-industrialization have been destructive to communities. Fundamentally, they point to the different ways that as we live in urban environments and deal with urban sprawl, more and more we are fundamentally isolated. There's a lack of a shared commitment to community. Turkel in 2011 described it as the difference between being alone together and togetherness. The community saved perspective points to the fact that friends and family are still the dominant form of social organization, and that technology may actually facilitate connection. However, when you really think about it, both the community lost and community saved perspectives can be criticized for failing to under-theorize change. The community liberated perspective argues that community actually has not been lost, but rather radically transformed. They highlight the different ways that technology allows us to connect. For example, like-minded communities are less inhibited by distance than in the past, and you're also able to maintain connection across distance. I have a childhood friend who married a woman in England, and every now and then we have a nice little Zoom catch-up. Another important concept to consider is Bourdieu's notion of social capital. Social capital refers to your accumulated actual and potential resources to which you have access due to your group affiliations or networks. Bourdieu is highlighting the ways that who you know can provide you benefit, not only to yourself as a private individual, but the benefits that go to a community, for example, when neighbors look out for each other. Putnam highlights that overall we have declining social capital. Using the GSS, Putnam documents that over time there's been a decline in social behaviors and an increase in media consumption. Therefore, we have to ask about the role that technology is playing in this decline. When scholars study the internet today, we tend to see them divided into a number of different perspectives. Utopian perspectives overemphasize the positive sides, the ways that communities form, the ways that we benefit from using technology like the internet. Dystopian perspectives tend to focus in on the negatives: lack of social engagement, declines in civic participation, the ways that crime and other things can happen on the internet, bullying, the negative side. Supplement perspectives tend to focus in on what the internet looks like in conjunction with the rest of our larger society. It takes a look at mediating factors, things like previous experience, the personal characteristics of users, whether they're in a community online or offline that's augmented by being online, what you're doing with the internet, and what else is going on in a person's life. We can apply sociological theory in lots of different ways to explore our current situation. When taking a look at online networks, Bourdieu's idea of social capital immediately springs to mind. How are people using their networks? Bonding social capital refers to connections with strong ties or intimate bonds, and bridging social capital refers to weaker ties or associates. What we find is that people who are using social media more are having more opportunity to do either of these things. Others take up Durkheim's ideas. Durkheim highlights how over time we shift from mechanic solidarity, or people being bound together by similarities in their experience, to organic solidarity, a system of mutual dependency. Durkheim highlights how we develop a collective consciousness. We have shared beliefs, morals, and ideas that act as a unifying force. Many take up Castell's idea of the networked societies and build upon these to consider whether or not communities are actually being destroyed by social media and the internet. Rainey and Wellman highlight that actually a triple revolution is taking place, that people may be well connected but are no longer geographically clustered. They highlight the ways that we are moving very much from groups to networks in terms of how we're connected. They also point to the way we now interact with a personalized internet, providing information tailored to our needs. And finally, with the proliferation of mobile devices, we're able to access this information anytime, anywhere. Wellman, Quanhaus, and Harper have proposed a typology to look at the different ways that people are connected or networked. First, they have networked individuals who have a diverse variety of roles within larger networks and use more digital channels. They tend to have sizable social networks, and they turn to digital media in order to make these connections. Socially connected individuals are not connected, but they're also not limited. While they have a sizable number of social ties and do use digital media, they also use smaller groups when they socialize and people outside of the networks for different activities. Finally, we have socially limited individuals who have much smaller and less diverse networks. They don't often participate in groups, and they're very limited in their use of digital media. Maybe they do use digital media to stay up to date, but for them, it doesn't really replace traditional offline forms of communication. Another key social debate that comes up regarding the internet is it a public sphere, or is it eroding our public sphere? Jürgen Habermas developed the notion of a public sphere based on historical analysis of the social process underlying the creation and flourishing and collapse of what he refers to as the bourgeois public sphere in Central Europe during the 18th century. Three key areas common to the bourgeoisie public sphere are status, one's personal status, or how one is viewed in society, a domain of common concern, the issues addressed within the public sphere, the things that are relevant to the larger social group, interests or influences, and inclusivity, ideas about who should be included in the public sphere, who is let in and who is kept out. So when we think about the public sphere and this concern about its demise, One theorist that gives us guidance is Habermas. Habermas points out that you get more public debate and more robust public speech in situations that are what he refers to as ideal speech situations, in which the rules are clear and structured and everybody's equal to voice their opinion. Noel Newman highlights what is called the spiral of silence, and in this view, people are much more willing to share their views if they believe that they are consistent with those in the majority, or if that they won't be stigmatized for anything that they share. The concept of third spaces provides an interesting area for analysis on the internet. Third spaces are not home, not workplaces where we build relationships, communities, share and develop ideas, and express our identities. We're all looking for the third space where we feel like we fit in. And many scholars highlight the potential for online third spaces, and specifically for third spaces for minoritized or marginalized groups, as being a place from which they can advocate for themselves. A key question then emerges: is social media a place for public engagement? Is it a place that can generate activism? I myself do research on this topic, and I am not even a little bit optimistic. I tend to find that it's not a great place for activism, and you guys don't seem to want it to be. More often you see people using it as a performance of identity or slacktivism, just a quick click. Finally, we really don't want a public means of communication controlled in private hands. It's very important that it not be shut down during a critical moment, and right now, as private means of communication, they can be shut down anytime the corporation wants to do so. Thanks for watching.